Irene start with the mission statement?
Sure. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and allow for open dialogue. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome everyone, and welcome Jason.
Yes, welcome Jason. So I'm going to go ahead and read Jason's bio, and then we'll get started. Jason Durham is a Louisiana native, husband, and father who has lived a life of fortunates through a life of trauma, trials, and tribulations. He was a caregiver for over 20 years to his daughter Bailey Caroline Durham as she dealt with complex medical needs to which she ultimately succumbed. He has been a disability advocate in Louisiana with a passion for helping others realize their voice matters. He helped lead the largest grassroots advocacy organization in Louisiana, which brought to light the rights of the disability community in Louisiana. He has also written legislation, of which one is named after his daughter Bailey, called Act 507, Bailey's Law. Jason is the author of Shift, the Spiritual Awakening of a Grieving Father, which is the first of a two-part series of his personal journey describing how he reconnected with his daughter in spirit and found peace, hope, and joy in his journey. He would come to realize that he is truly a shining light parent. Ultimately, Jason's passion is to assist others heal in their grief process by helping to connect them with their loved ones who have passed, sharing the message of life after life. His insight and experiences have led others as they deal with grief on their own unique path, helping to shine a light on how to clear the grief path to continue to walk forward. He emphasizes grief never goes away, it just becomes easier. Jason is also a board member of Helping Parents Heal, an international shining light parent organization. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jason Durham.
Good evening, afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Elizabeth and Irene, for asking me to come on a Friday night, and I appreciate everyone who's here on a Friday night. Just wanted to give a little overview of who I am, just kind of lay a foundation. At any time, if anybody has a question, just throw it out there and I can stop and go, and we can address it at that point if that works for everybody. I am a Louisiana native. I was raised in a small rural community. To just my brother and I, my mom and my dad. At an early age, I was that quirky young man who nobody really knew how to deal with. I always had best friends that you couldn't see. I didn't have one friend, I had multiple friends. And it made for some interesting conversations and some interesting doctor's diagnoses that proved to be false. At a young age, 5 or 6, my parents decided to bring a different faith into the house, and I grew up in that faith up and probably until a couple of years before Bailey passed, because I was raised to never question things, and being someone who has a pretty inquisitive mind, I started questioning things to myself, not having anybody else to ask questions of, like, okay, some stuff, just didn't come true. I had been told that to pray for my daughter's healing, and if I did my job, God would do his job, and it just didn't happen. So it happened the way that I was raised. So I just started questioning a lot of things. I'm a Bigfoot kind of guy. I'm a UFO kind of guy. I gotta see it to believe it, and I just didn't see it. So I started questioning. I mean, natural things that questioning. Um, Bailey was a unique individual. She was, I was a 24-year-old when she was born, so kind of a young dad. And Bailey's life started off with an adverse reaction, which we had a genetic history of, and was not heeded by physicians. And she passed when she was at like her 6 month, after a 6 month DPT vaccination. Well, 4th month, we didn't notice it until the 6th month. And Bailey never progressed past the developmental stages of a 6-month-old. She was not expected to live to the age of 2, but she had enough for her dad and her that just didn't work for her. So she decided to stick around and let me take care of her for 21 wonderful years, tough years, but wonderful years. Last 3 years of her life is when she received a second and final prognosis. Basically, with Bailey's situation, the easy way to say it is that the core of her brain atrophied over the time of her life. And that part of the brain controlled her breathing and her cardiac function, the connection of the pathways to the brain. So she, towards the end of her life, she aspirated on the full spectrum, meaning that we couldn't give her anything by mouth, no food, no medicine. So she had seizure disorder, multiple seizures every day, a lot of emergency medicine to stop seizures. And as Elizabeth had said, I truly feel that I have lived a life of fortunates. I don't think it's any super secret, but this path that we walk on, it sucks. This is the club that nobody wants to be in, but here we are. And I lived 21 years with every night unsure whether Bailey was going to wake up the next morning. So I was up. I had constantly, every night had been programmed to anticipate what was going to happen and celebrate it when it didn't happen. So every day was a fresh start with Bailey. I consider myself super fortunate that I had 21 years of first days with my daughter. I was fortunate in the fact that I got a chance to be there for her first breath and her last breath. It was just she and I when she passed. I got to be there for her first feeding. I was the one who had to remove her feeds from her because she was being fed through a stomach pump. First and last diaper, except for the nurse, and you know how that goes. The nurse when she was born. So I got all of her first and lasts, and it sucks that I had lasts, but I celebrate in the firsts. I celebrate Bailey's life. I'm a big 2-inch dasher, that my daughter's life consisted not of October 1st, 2014 at 10:45 a.m., but her life consisted of May in 93 to October of 2014. And I celebrate her life. And I know that's been part of the healing process for me in celebrating her life and telling as many people I can about Bailey's life and the ripple effects of her story. Bailey passed, like I said, October 1st, 2014 at 10:45 a.m. She succumbed to a 4-hour-long grand mal seizure on Monday night. The previous Friday, I had really started the morphine because I had her in hospice, not even really realizing what hospice meant. I thought hospice meant that the nurses were going to come in and every night or every hour, and they were going to do what they were going to do. I didn't realize that I was hospice. I was the one who had to admit the morphine. I was the one who had to do all that stuff. of course, you never learn to say it can't get any worse, right? Well, it can't get any worse than having to decide to put your child into hospice. It can't get any worse than having to remove the feeds, or it can't get any worse than changing your daughter's last diaper. It can't get any worse than then. And, that's, in hindsight, I look on it as, I had made Bailey a promise that I would always take care of her until I couldn't take care of her anymore. And she enabled me to move forward in my life by handling that. And, I'd started morphine on that Friday night every hour, and Sunday morning from 3:45 to 7:45, she had a 4-hour-long grand mal seizure. And after that, she was no longer in her body. Let me put it that way. I mean, she's in communication. She's like, I was right there on the shoulder, Dad. I was watching everything going on, but I just couldn't cut the cord. It wouldn't let me go. So ultimately, on Wednesday morning, October 1st, she, I had her. I was a single dad at this time. Christine, my wife, and I were dating at that time, and I called her mom. I said, "You need to come." And then that Wednesday, I said, "Listen, I'm going to go eat breakfast with Christine. I'm going to give you an hour with Bailey, and then go back to your apartment, get, whatever you need to do, and you come back. I'll call you if anything." So did that, and 15 minutes after her mother left, Bailey exhaled, and she exhaled. And I was in the bed with her. She looked to the left, exhaled, and she was free, no longer bound by a body, and full energy and spirit. And boy, would I understand what that was going to be in the future. I really didn't have an understanding of how impactful that moment would be later on. It took me, I had that year of numbness, right? There's that year of numbness. There's that second year of, oh shit, Bailey's passed. And then the third year of like, okay, it's time to, how I've had my hardcore grieving. How am I going to be able to help other people? So, all this time, Christine and I had gotten married, and I had relocated and moved, and started questioning a lot of things. And there's a lot to be said about, for someone that you could just talk about anything with, especially someone that didn't look at you cross-eyed or like, I don't know about that. Christine was that rock that I could go to and just bounce ideas off of. I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't scared to ask questions. And I kept saying, okay, Bailey, if it's really you, do something, right? Okay, Bailey, if you're really, you're in spirit, and do something. Nothing, right? Nothing. Early October 2017, about 1:30 in the morning, I heard a voice as clear as I'm talking to you that said, "Would you stop looking for me? I'm right here." And it was one of those moments that Hollywood loves, where the guy sits up in bed and he's like sweating buckets and his eyes are that big and he's like looking around. The room was dark. The cats were in the other room. My wife was still asleep, so I know it didn't wake her up, and she wakes up real easy. Then I heard it again. "Would you stop looking for me? I'm right here." I'm still as audible as I'm talking now. So one of the things that guys like to do is we check our phones, right? We check our phones to see what the time is, whether or not we should just stay up because we know we got to go to work the next morning. Okay. It was 1:30. I was like, oh, boom, it hit again. I heard it again. Dad, would you stop looking for me? I'm right here. I was like, I was thinking, okay, this is psychosis. I'm having a mental breakdown. I don't know what's going on. So I laid back down ever so slowly. I just laid down. Maybe it was me. As I'm laying there, I hear it one more time. Dad, would you stop looking for me? I'm right here. I was like, okay. and I sat there or laid there for a while, and then I finally went to sleep. So the next morning, Christine, we were having coffee, and she often tells this story better than I do because she remembers the little super details. We're sitting there having coffee, and I said, "You'll never guess what happened last night." She went, "What?" I said, 1:30. I woke up with, "Would you stop looking for me? I'm right here." And this is the first time Christine went, okay. I was like, okay, she has not done that sound of voice when I ask her the strange questions, but that's the tone of voice that she's using for that. So we kind of talked a little bit about it, and I was like, it was just really, really unique. It was at 1:30 in the morning. I heard it multiple times. Would you stop looking for me? I'm right here. Dad, would you stop looking for me? I'm right here. Dad, I'm right here. So the next morning, go to work. The next morning, but I hear a noise and it wakes me up. And it woke my wife up this time. It's like, well, in mid slumber at night, it's really hard to really hard to talk to each other in like a normal voice, like, Jay, pick up your glasses. You're going to step on them. I didn't knock off my glasses. Get your glasses. And so it's that middle of the night conversation where no one's real happy about being awake, but we both know we're awake. And so I reach over on the side of the bed. We have a big king size bed. And I reach over and I can't find my glasses, right? So I'm reaching around because I really don't want to get out of bed. Reach around, and I had put my glasses on my nightstand right next to my bed. So they weren't up there. They weren't on the floor like they, somehow I may have knocked them off, which I didn't knock them off because I was facing my wife. So I get out of bed and I get on my hands and knees, which is bad enough because my knees are horrible. And I'm feeling all around by the desk and I cannot find my glasses. So I grab my phone and I turn on the light to see what, I turn on my phone to see what time it is, and I go to try to grab my glasses. So again, this is the middle of the night, and I'm still trying to grab glasses to see my phone in order for me to find the glasses that were supposed to be on my head. Feeling around for them. I look at it says 3:30 on my phone. I was like, 3:30. So I find my glasses. Somehow my glasses had been magically moved from about 3.5 foot beside my bed, all the way down the end of the king size bed and a foot under, right where the base of my feet were. So my glasses had moved from here all the way to down there. So the next morning, Christine and I are having coffee again. She goes, did you get your glasses? What was up with that? I said, I did not knock my glasses off. She goes, what do you mean? I heard them hit the ground. I said, I did too. I said, you'll never guess where I found them. And she goes, where? I said, underneath the foot of my side of the bed. She goes, what? I said, I know, right? I measured, and that's what guys do. We measure those kind of things. And she said, what time was that? I said, 3:30. She goes, what? Holy shit. I went, yeah, why? She goes, well, after you told me what you told me yesterday, I said, okay, Bailey, if that was really you, do something for your dad at 3:30 in the morning. And she did. And then I started having some really cool dreams that were not dreams. They were actually like visions that it was like I woke up in bed, sat up, and it was like I was looking at a picture just in the middle of the black room. And I started seeing more and getting more. So not really understanding much of this, Christine and I had started working with Elizabeth. I'd actually gotten Elizabeth's information from Nicole Riley, who's a local medium where I'm at, and reached out to Elizabeth and said, Elizabeth, I got some weird stuff going on. I need somebody to talk to. And she immediately connected me with Ernie Jackson. And Ernie, here's something that's really, really, it made a huge impact on me Christine and I had visited some other bereavement groups, for the lack of a better word, grief groups. I had gone to a grief, but I had never heard the joy in people's voices from people who had had children pass. And I'm like, Ernie sounds just like Elizabeth. Where's this joy coming from? Where is this happiness coming from? Don't they realize that their children have passed? And I never forget when, Ernie, either I called Ernie or Ernie called me. And Ernie called me. And it's Jason. I said, yeah, this is Ernie Jackson. Hey, brother, how you doing? I was like, okay, the joy that was just coming from this guy, all I could think of is, man, I want some of that. I need some of that in my life. How are these people so happy? And talking to Ernie and telling him the stories and telling him my story, hearing his story. And one of the first things he said, brother, you need to write a book. You need to write a book, brother. I mean, the brother he said brother so many times in the conversation. But Ernie, he was kind of onto something. And I understood why he was so happy, because he said, Jason, our kids aren't dead. They're alive, brother. They're just on a different plane than we are, but they're still right here with us. There really is no such thing as death. There's just life after life. And the more he talked with me, I started getting some of these answers to these questions that Christine and I had been talking about. And then some of this stuff that Bailey had, all of a sudden, this audible voice, this throwing these things. One of the visions that I received, I call them visions or messages in the middle of the night, was, it was as clear as a bell. It was a grass rope, and there was a veil. And that grass rope was being pulled taut through the veil. And I had no idea what any of that meant. To me, it was just a cool, and I do Photoshop a lot for a living, and that's just, so I created a lot of these images, and I told Ernie about it. He goes, oh, brother, that's all she's doing is she's saying, there's a rope, my friend. She's reaching out. She's going to be talking to you more. Listen, here's what you need to do. Coming up next week, Dr. Mark Pistic is doing a facilitated after-death communication. Brother, you got to do it. It's amazing. You'll connect with Bailey. Right now, that energy level from her coming down to you is so big and boisterous. Brother, you got to do it. So I said, okay. And another thing he told me, he says, write stuff down, and again, he kept impressing on, man, you got to write this stuff. You got to write a book, brother. You got to put this stuff down. You got a story. I was like, oh, okay. So did the facilitated after death communication. And if you have not had the opportunity to, please, the next time that Dr. Pistic is on here, and he was here recently doing it on the online group, right, Elizabeth? I think she's muted.
I'm muted. I was going to say yes. And not only that, but even if you aren't able to have attended, all of those are on YouTube. So you can go back. There's 2 of them now that are on YouTube. And thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, they're amazing. And listen, y'all, if you would go to the YouTube page for Helping Parents Heal and just scroll through, you're going to find so many amazing. I haven't been fortunate. I haven't been able to get to all of them, but I'll go back and I'll watch them. It's some amazing, amazing stuff. So I connected with Bailey. I really did. And I got a chance to see my baby girl as she knew I needed to see her. We walked in stream, and she was walking in a stream of water. She loved to be barefoot. She loved water. She presented herself to me as I needed to see her. Healthy, laughing, whole, free, her body no longer bound with a full spinal fusion, walking, talking. Bailey was nonverbal. She was non-ambulatory. She wore a diaper for her whole life. I had to feed her whole life. And now I found myself walking and talking with my daughter. It was the most amazing, the most beautiful thing. Changed my life forever. And I can remember I was a bit of a hot mess in that meeting, because I kind of took over and I was just so excited about what I saw. And Dr. Pitstick was like, okay, Jason, let's get some other people a chance to talk. And at the end of it, one of the things he said was, listen, y'all need to start journaling, because if you didn't get anything through this, you will in the next week. Or if you did, you're going to get more in the next week. Meditate. Start meditating and start journaling everything you get. And, and so that's what I did. I've always been kind of a head first kind of guy. And that's what so I meditated the next morning. I meditated the next night. I meditated that second morning, all with guided meditation. And then for something, something clicked with me and it felt familiar. That third time I went to meditate, I was like, I really don't need somebody to guide me into meditation and how to do this. I just put on some noise canceling stuff in my ears, and I sat there. And when I sat there, it's like the world opened up, and I started in what I could only call spirituality 101. And it was like I was getting this foundation. I didn't have the meditation like most people consider meditation, where it's a time where you can just empty your mind and you can relax. And I've never had that luxury, and I consider that a luxury. All of my stuff was like spirituality 101. There was one point about 2 months into this process, I was reading a book by one of the early founders of spirituality back in the 1850s. And he had written a paragraph, and I was like, wait a second, that's really familiar to me. And I went back and looked through my journal. Okay, now my journal was an online journal. I did like a hidden WordPress or hidden Blogger, and I would type it all in. What I would do is, I've got a horrible memory, y'all. I have a horrible memory, but for some reason I was able to remember verbatim everything that I received in meditation. So I would put it in my phone. I would dictate it into my phone, and then I would email it to myself and put it up. Overall, that's what Shift, this book, became. It was my journal. It was my conversations that continued with my daughter. The conversations that would continue. Actually, she became my riding buddy to work every morning, and my riding buddy back home from work. Sharing a lot of information that, I had gotten wrong. Anyway, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. To get back to what this gentleman had written back in 1858, and he had written a paragraph that a month and a half before I had received verbatim here in this room right here back in September of 2017. I was given, and it's so weird to say that. It's really weird to say that. But what was shared to me, what was said to me by a spirit guide, was the same thing that I would read in a book a month and a half later, written by a guy back in 1850. And this is 2017. So I knew that this was, without a shadow of a doubt, this was my Bigfoot moment. This was my UFO moment. That, yes, spirit is evident and real to me, and I don't need to keep questioning it. And at that point in time, I realized one of the shifts, and that's what the book is really. It's my journal. The first book is 250 or so pages of a journal. It was a Word document, and I'll never forget. I called Ernie. I said, "Well, guess what, brother?" He goes, "What's up?" I said, "The book." And he started laughing. I said, "So when is your next book coming?" "Well, I don't know if I'm really." I said, "No, you've got one more book in you. So be watching that for Ernie Jackson coming." But it's I think I know for me, spiritual it's in a how do I put this? I experienced multiple shifts, and I still continue to experience shifts. So let me try to define what I mean shift means. A shift is, it's an opening in your awareness. It's a step up in your awareness of spirit, of who we are, contrary to what everybody says we are. You know, I'm still in a growth pattern. I'm still in a place of growth, and I'm still shifting. And I would find myself going through a period of meditation and receiving information and documenting it. I almost felt like at that point, I was just dictating and documenting what Spirit was giving to me. And then there would be like a week of just like, oh, I can't connect. I'm not able to go into a deepening. And it was like a week. And then all of a sudden I had obviously shifted, you know, and the next thing I know, so the first part was like Education 101. Part 2 was, who are all these people and why are they coming up to me with my eyes closed? And then I would have a shift. And the next thing is, okay, these people are telling me specific messages. What does this mean? And I would find that what seemed to be natural to me was almost really a reawakening from my childhood when I was 4 to 5 years old. And, you know, I always say the best thing someone could do is, my parents could do, is put me in a corner to punish me, because I was never alone. I was always had friends. I always had people we talked to. And it's just, it's an honor to connect with my child. And it's an honor to be able to share with other people, you know, which I'm very fortunate in my line of work. I get to share Bailey's story on a daily basis. But the meditation and the book specifically, I wanted to reflect really what was going on with me, because this was super conversational. And so what do I mean by conversational? Conversational is that I'm driving on my way to work, and before I would like ask a question, she answered it. So I would oftentimes find myself dictating what I'm driving down the road, not hands-free, of course. I'm doing this, right? And it's just like a stream of consciousness. And I'm just rattling it off. And then when I get back to the office to look at it, I realize what I was going to ask, the question. And here's a fun part. My daughter loved to correct me. And let me explain what that means. So when Bailey passed, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to have every record of her life that I could possibly have. So she was in and out of hospitals all throughout Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. I was able to get almost all of her medical records back. Well, when Bailey was 15, 16, she had a full spinal fusion. And when she got out of surgery, she was in PICU, and I remember her temperature, 104.3. And it was like, it just went up, you know, and didn't stay long, then it came down. I was like, Bailey, why 104.3? She goes, no, Dad, 93.5. I was like, no, 104.3. She goes, no, Dad, 93.5. So what do? I go because I've got to be right? It's a guy thing. You know, we got to be right. I went and looked up in the medical records, and she was right. I was wrong. And I would find this really fun banter back and forth with Bailey in the car. There was one time that she said, you really need to talk to Karen's son. Talk to Karen about her son. He is going to be all right. The cardiologist is not going to find anything. Well, I only knew one Karen, and she's somebody that I had done advocacy with. And I really didn't know much of anything about being a medium or being someone who connects people with spirit or their loved ones in spiritual plane. And so I called. I said, Karen, I just got to say it because I don't know where you stand on what you believe or anything, but but Kevin's going to have a good cardiac report, and he's going to be exceeding expectations. She goes, oh my God. I said, what? She goes, we had our cardiologist yesterday, and his doctor said Kevin is going to be all right, and he's well exceeding all of his expectations. She goes, I totally believe that, Jason. That's great. If you ever want to tell me anything else about Kevin, just bring it on. that's the kind of stuff. And it was those baby steps of understanding the communication that I have with my daughter and the communication I had with spirit.
And
And
Jason, can I ask you something?
sure.
First of all, I want to tell you that I remember when you started communicating with Bailey, and Irene and I would listen to you, and we would try not to say that we were jealous, but we were very excited for you. And it was so amazing because both of us have been on this path longer than you have. And to hear the different experiences that you were having with Bailey were amazing. But Isha's asking, and I think this is a good question. How did you feel the huge void as being her caregiver that must have taken a lot of your time and also made you so close to her and always caring and worrying for her and moving on to another type of day life?
Yeah, boy, that's phenomenal. That's a great question. A lot of people don't understand how hard it is being a caregiver on that level. You don't really sleep. You micro nap at night, 30 minutes, because I had to rotate her every night at 30 minutes. Before Bailey, not long after she had received that last prognosis, I started talking to a counselor. And that was exactly one of the things that the counselor said. You got to be prepared because your whole adult life, and at that point it had been, I was 24 when Bailey was born. Your whole adult life has been as a caregiver for Bailey. So we need to kind of figure out who Jason is. What does Jason like to do? Because that's never been something I would even consider. And even still to this day, you can ask my wife, I will always defer to her for television. And I know she's listening to this and she's probably going to laugh at this, but I have been going through all 6 to 10 seasons, however many there are, of Army Wives, because that's just what I love her. But oh gosh, I'm going to get it for that. I know I'm going to get it for that. But so far as a whole, right? I was told that Bailey, there's going to be a hole there where Bailey was and who I was, not just in my heart, because our kids encompass so much more than just our heart. In our interactions with our kids, that's how we kind of learn to communicate. We learn to communicate with them in our own special language. And though they have passed on, we still carry on some of those traits. But one of the best pieces of information, or best pieces of advice I had ever received was never try to fill that hole with anything else, because you never will. That hole is not fillable. However, your life gets so much richer it continues to grow. And so looking at a hole it changes from a negative to I'm honoring, this was the special place for my daughter. I wouldn't want to fill it because I know that was hers, and she and I, that was us. But that was one of the things that I was told. I was also told to not make any big decisions within a year after she passed. So what did I do? I got married. I had major knee surgery. I sold a house. I lost a job. I got a job. And that was all from October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Yeah, within 7 months. So I'm also
Bailey helped you with that, obviously.
Oh my! Well, here's okay. So real quickly. So I was let go from a 20-year job on a Friday morning. By that afternoon, I had secured a job with a competitor that lived 5 minutes where I moved from. And his main reason, this is what's really cool. Bailey has always continued to look after me and put things in my pathway. The main reason why he hired me was one of the main reasons was not just because I knew the industry, but because he had been following my story with Bailey. And that was the main reason he wanted me on board.
That's beautiful. I have some other questions
Sure.
I'd love to ask you.
Sure.
One of them being, and this is a great one from Anna, And especially since I was just talking about the fact that you did this so quickly. Anna is saying, Jason, after Bailey transitioned, how long after did you begin to have communication with her?
For me, it was almost 3 years. But I think part of that is because she knew, first off, I'm hard-headed, and she knew I had to go through some stuff before I was ready to really get this unfoldment happening, this reawakening, this awakening happening in my life. I wasn't ready. You can ask Christine, my wife. There would be nights I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and drive an hour and a half to go spend 5 minutes at my daughter's graveside. And I never forget Christine asking me once, "Why do you do that?" I said, "Because that's where I left her." And that most of that was that second year. And because of that, I started finding it where I didn't need to go every once a week and go once a week. And when that happened is when all of this happened. I can see it as foundational, right? For me, it was a foundation of getting to the point where I was able to understand and realize that, there's a heck of a lot more than me.
That's amazing. And I also just want to tell you that Nancy is saying something that's so beautiful. 17 months since my son's passing, and this is the first group that has given me some real peace. Jason is such a wonderful father. And Irene is saying, and I agree with her, you should talk about Bailey's Law because it's an amazing advocacy law.
Bailey's Law, really, it ended up kind of being not a fluke, but it was, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? I had been part of the Developmental Disability Council in Louisiana. It was a council for individuals with developmental disabilities throughout the state. And what we did was we fought for the rights of individuals with disabilities. And there were a lot of families that didn't know how to speak up for themselves. They didn't realize that they had a voice. And I just happened to be that loud dad. The legislature deemed me the dadvocate, which I actually have a dadvocate t-shirt on now. So, someone bought me a box full of dadvocate shirts. And I was at a council meeting and somebody said, well, the Nursing Board of Louisiana is getting ready to enact fees on families with children with complex medical needs. And these fees are going to be $250 per incident per direct service worker or person that's working with the child or the individual. So, for instance, Bailey received Depakine, which was seizure medicine. And if she received 9 cc's 3 times a day or twice a day, okay, I had 3 people helping me take care of Bailey throughout the week. So a nurse would have to come in, and out of my pocket, I would have to pay $250 for each person for that nurse to show them how to draw the medicine up into the syringe and put it in her little GJ tube and administer the medication. Well, let's say the doctor said the next week, Jason, we need to go up to 10 cc's. I didn't like her Depakine levels. I would have to pay another $750 the next week to have a nurse come in and do it again and again. And most of the families that have children with complex medical needs are on such a fixed income. I don't have a problem telling you, I lived on $35,000 for a family of 5, a house and 2 cars and insurance. And, there's a lot of beans and rice in that, y'all. There's a lot of beans and rice in that. And, but we did it, we did it. And finally she got on a waiver, a Medicaid waiver called the Now waiver. So I was like, this just isn't right. We don't have the money for that. Okay, so I said, let me try to write something. So I found a piece of legislation on the legislature's website. I pulled it off and I just started writing. Did it in Word and typed it up. I don't know what it needed, the numerical, nomenclature and all that meant. And I gave it to my legislator and I said, Kenny, can you please present this? Which he goes, well, what is it? And I told him. He says, oh, heck yeah. He goes, well, why are you bringing this? I said, well, honestly, Kenny, it's not really about how someone takes care of my daughter or teaches someone else to take care of my daughter. It's how my daughter likes to be cared for. And someone outside can't do that. Only I as a parent can do that and teach those people that are going to take care of Bailey during the day when I'm at the office. And then when I come home, I take care of her. It's not just about how to take care of them. It's how they like to be cared for. It's the individual. It's always about the individual. It's not about what someone else is doing for the individual. And so he goes, great. He said, let me give it to the legislative attorney. They changed one or two things, and it passed in House Health and Welfare. It passed back on the House floor to Senate Health and Welfare, unanimously, y'all. Back to the Senate floor, sent back to the House. And as with the House, when they were getting ready to do final passage, I was in my van, in Bailey's van, because I still have Bailey's van. In Bailey's van, I pulled up into my driveway, and I heard Kenny Havard coming up. Bill 153, as pertaining to, and he reads it. I goes, here we go. And then LDH, Louisiana Department of Health, said, listen, we have an amendment we'd like to add to this. Okay. This law, and the amendment was, we want to add this verbiage to the end. This law shall be known as Bailey's Law on behalf of Bailey Caroline Durham and Jason Michael Durham's work for advocacy for the individual with developmental disabilities in the state of Louisiana. I remember it verbatim. And I just started, it was in my van. I was just like weeping. And then it went unanimous, and then co-authors, and almost everybody co-authored it in the legislature. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we had a ceremonial signing at Governor Jindal's at the mansion. And I'll never forget, Governor Jindal and I fought a lot in the newspaper. If you look up Jason Durham and the Advocate in Baton Rouge, you're going to find a lot of stuff. And I'll never forget, and I actually have a picture of this where I'm standing here, Bailey's in her wheelchair, and Governor Jindal was looking straight at her, and he was saying, I never realized it was this bad. I said, you have no idea until you've been in our shoes how bad it is. Think about where we are today, right? We are all on our own unique grief path that unless you have walked it or you're walking it, you don't get it. But think about this, y'all. This organization, Helping Parents Heal, what it did for me and what it has done for so many people. And I still don't know how Elizabeth consistently sounds as joyful as she did from August of 2017. She's the same one day to day. And it's beautiful. I mean, she's like, I don't know if she really gets flustered. I want to see her really get flustered. But Helping Parents Heal it's life-changing, y'all. It's life-changing. This is the organization that actually after every meeting, I didn't leave with the overbearing feeling of sorrow as I did when I left other meetings. When I left this, I've left these online meetings. It's more than, how like there's nothing like a good exhale. That's how I personally have felt. Even in all those late nights meetings of the first conference, and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and Irene, Elizabeth trying to get to our first conference, y'all, I didn't sleep that first conference. I really didn't. And it was the most amazing. It was a fulfillment for me personally. It was a fulfillment in my heart. It fueled my passion to help other people. And if at all, help other people not have to go through what I have gone through in the past. And that's part of what this book was. I had to share what I had experienced. And the only reason was part of this conversation was if one person gets anything out of what I experienced, Spirit has been served, y'all. Our kids have been served.
Okay, Jason, I have to read you what's being said in the box here, isn't it? Oh my gosh. Babette is saying, so true, making me cry. Paula is saying, my friend was concerned for my well-being and found HPH immediately for me. I couldn't make it without the videos and support from other parents and hearing guest parents like Jason. I'm amazed by their smiles and ability to talk about what I feel as the saddest day of my life. I want to learn to be a shining light parent, not to avoid the sadness, but to help those in similar journeys to find a new relationship with their children. Okay, I'm not done yet, but you can talk after. Vidisha is saying, absolutely, I love this group and the positivity and unwavering support to all of us parents. Jason, Anna is saying, yes, Jason, it is my daily breath. Iris is saying, I lost my daughter during COVID. HPH is a lifeline. Thank you. Rosie is saying, I agree. I love this group, this family, going through this journey together. It fills my heart, gives me so much hope and guidance. Susan is saying, this group is the best. It gives hope to those who are feeling hopeful. Grateful. Heidi's saying, this group and stories like Jason's are helping me through this. And Valentina is saying, HPH is such a unique organization. I used to attend 2 bereaved parent groups, and after every meeting felt so sad. When I found HPH and came for the first meeting, it turned my life around. And Rose is saying the same thing. Rose just got 2 readings from John Holland.
Oh, wow.
Mark
That's
Anthony.
right. I remember that.
I feel the same way. I love helping parents heal. I look forward to all the meeting speakers. Gives me hope and joy. But it's going on and on. So I'm gonna stop. I just want to say that it actually brought tears to my eyes when you were saying that. I want to say that, that conference that Irene suggested and worked so hard on, and
Yes.
both of them were probably some of the most fun times of my life. And here we are with all of us having kids on the other side. And it was just such an amazing thing to be able to meet all of these parents who are walking the same path, but know that this path is magical. It's not just about us. It's about our kids being together as well and having a blast. So anyway, it's okay. This is going.
Hey, you know what? This is good. This is the opportunity for them to express themselves,
But Johnny is saying, Jason, what book did you read from the 1850s? I wanted to ask you that too. Could you please go back to that?
Yeah, it's a book on mediumship. Back from, I think part of it was from Andrew Jefferson Davis. There is a website called Forgotten Books, and if you Google search Forgotten Books, you can register for free, and you can go in and it's books. Andrew Jefferson Davis. He's kind of like become my go-to guy. When I was in a previous life, I would always go to Martin Luther or John Calvin or whatever. And this guy he's amazing. But it was a book on mediumship, and to see what the forefathers of what we now consider as mediumship, how they saw the spirit realm was they were really like protecting it with an iron fist. This is real stuff. This is how it is. And this is it's really cool to see how it was. And then you see what you call modern day spirituality. And it's like, it's still the same thing. It's just, we use a different words. But when you see these guys and gals who really fought for what they believed in, and there's one part of that book that really just resonated with me, in the fact that what I had come out of was an organized faith called Calvinism. Very intense, evangelical, and it's Andrew Jefferson Davis. He went through almost the same exact thing that I did. So I guess it's kind of like I've always found him as a kinship for me. But
well, I have to just keep going here.
Okay, cool.
Just a little bit, because first of all, I just want to say that Jenny and Dave Lyle have said, oh my goodness, Jason, I had no idea of your story. Brother Ernie was right. Thank you for writing your book. By the way, Ernie's not a minister, but he should be. Actually, I think he should be Buddha myself.
I think he's married some people before. I think he's done a ceremony.
He might be a minister, actually. But Suzanne is asking a really interesting question. Jason, what do you think about the attitude in general of mediums now versus before? I find it hopeful.
Yeah, I'm starting to see, and I don't think it's any secret. There is becoming a shift in they're starting, and I think it started in the 80s, maybe even back into the 70s. A shift of spirituality, a shift in people seeing mediumship and what mediums do as, you have to look at the validation, right? There's so much validation that comes through with a medium that I think there are some good mediums. I think there's some mediums that aren't as good, but they have their own really cool, unique focus. When you look at mediumship in the past, it was very, like Janet and Havoc said, it was an honorable thing. It was a thing of reverence, more so I think in the past than it is now. And I think part of that is because it's become more mainstream. As people's faiths started to shift, I think mediumship today has helped so many more people, as more people are becoming attuned to spirit and are starting to understand their connection with spirit. And as with this group, their connection with their kids.
Well, yes. And I just want to say that, let's see, Rose here said, yes, 2 unexpected readings. This has happened last 2 nights. Solid evidence as well. Exactly. It is about our kids. They are here with us. Jody is saying, HPH has been a lifesaver for me too. I look forward to the meetings. I miss you all when there's no meetings on certain nights. I miss everybody too. And then Iris is saying, Jason, you are an amazing dad. Your story is very touching. And I agree.
Thank you.
I mean, I've always been so impressed with everything that you do in Bailey's honor. And I feel so grateful that you're a part of Helping Parents Heal. And that first conference program was just amazing. Thanks to Jason. He did such a fabulous job on that. And we're coming up on 9 o'clock, but well, it's 8 o'clock for you actually. But I just want to say that I truly appreciate. Let's see. So, yeah, Suzanne is saying yes, and with this group, we could all be trailblazers. I suppose we can, right? Which is kind of fun.
Yes,
but.
Indeed.
I think that the most important thing to realize is that our kids want us to do this. It's not as though you or me or Irene or anybody else, Suzanne or all these people involved in Helping Parents Heal necessarily, we didn't believe in this before. We didn't necessarily search this out before our kids passed. They just showed us the way, which is wonderful. And if you listen to your kids, you can't go wrong, which is the most important thing we can remember, is that they're going to steer us in the right direction. So thank you so much for coming tonight. I truly appreciate it. And thank you all for being on here and for those beautiful messages that actually brought tears to my eyes as well. And again, please unmute and say goodbye to Jason and thank you. And I will make
Monday night, Elizabeth, we have Bill Guggenheim.
Bill Guggenheim, yes.
The author of Hello from Heaven.
Yes.
And I'll be publishing a newsletter on hopefully Sunday afternoon, which will have all of the different upcoming meetings, as well as links in the Facebook group, as well as more information about all of our affiliate groups. We have a new one in Australia, New Zealand for moving forward after suicide with Alison Salisbury. And we also have a lot happening with our Helping Siblings Heal group. As a matter of fact, Helping Siblings Heal is having a meeting in August on the 20th with Isabella Johnson. She'll be bringing through readings for all of the siblings. So please make sure that you read the newsletter and read all of the information that's happening on the Facebook site as well. And thank you so much, Jason. I truly appreciate it.
Great
job. Have a wonderful, I'll make sure to have
Thanks.
links to all of your website and books as well on the YouTube site and on the Facebook site.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have
all.
a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
Y'all have a great weekend.
everyone.
Take
And
care.
please
Everybody.
unmute.
Have a good weekend.
Oh, you can unmute. Wait. I'm going to make sure. Oh, okay, there. You can unmute now. Can you unmute?
Thank you, Jason.
So much.
Beautiful.
Thank you, and have a good night,
Jason,
everybody.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jason.
Thank you. It was amazing.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.